In the deep, suffocating silence of the night, a sudden, piercing scream shattered the stillness. The house seemed to tremble with the echo of that cry, a raw, broken sound that clawed through the darkness. On the cold floor of a dimly lit living room, Harold, an elderly man with trembling hands and a face marked by years of hardship, collapsed. His breath was ragged, the lines of regret and pain etched deeply in his worn features. Around him stood his estranged children, faces pale with shock and shame, their years of silence broken in a heartbeat. Evelyn, the 92-year-old matriarch, sat quietly in her rocking chair by the window, her frail hands gripping the wood as if holding on to the last thread of a story untold. The air was thick with unspoken truths, the weight of years spent apart now crashing down in this one unbearable moment. "You never listened to me," Harold gasped, eyes glazed but fierce. "Now it's too late." The house, once filled with laughter and love, now held only shadows and the unbearable ache of what might have been. Evelyn's voice, fragile yet firm, broke the heavy silence. "We cannot keep burying what's left unsaid." Her gaze swept across the room, landing on each child with a quiet, undeniable authority. The years had not dimmed her spirit, only sharpened her insight. "This house is a mausoleum for regrets," she said softly, "and tonight we face them." Her words hung in the air like a challenge and a balm at once. Memories flooded back, of laughter, of love, of arguments never resolved. Her children, once so close, now strangers wrapped in years of silence and suspicion, felt the weight of their fractures more than ever. "Harold's collapse isn't just a body failing," Evelyn murmured. "It's the crack in the foundation of our family." The room, heavy with the ghosts of their past, seemed suddenly alive with the possibility of reckoning. Harold's eldest son, Thomas, finally found his voice. "We all made mistakes," he said, voice rough with years of swallowed pain. "But pretending they don't exist doesn't fix anything." His words cut through the room like a blade wrapped in silk. Memories flickered behind his eyes, the times he walked away, the silence he kept. "I've blamed you all," he admitted, eyes flickering to his siblings. "But the truth is, I blamed myself more." The confession hung heavy, the walls seemingly breathing in the revelation. The fragile hope in the room was tempered by the reality of wounds still fresh and bleeding. Evelyn watched quietly, knowing this moment was the first crack in a long night's wall. The youngest daughter, Marie, sat with her arms folded tightly across her chest, a shield against the flood of emotions. "I've spent years angry," she said, voice low and sharp, "angry that we never really had a chance to be a family." Her words were a quiet thunder, rumbling through the cracks. She recalled nights alone, waiting for apologies that never came, dinners eaten in silence, holidays marked by absence rather than togetherness. "Maybe it's too late for us," she whispered, "but not for him." Her eyes softened as they met Harold's, lying fragile on the floor, a man broken not just by age, but by the ghosts they all carried. The room tightened around her words, the tension between hope and despair palpable. Evelyn cleared her throat, voice trembling but resolute. "Letting go is not forgetting," she said, "it's choosing peace over pain." Her eyes gleamed with the wisdom of decades lived fully. "Tonight, we start by telling the truth we've hidden." The room held its breath as each family member grappled with the weight of her words. The night was a crucible, burning away pretenses and laying bare the fragile bones of their shared past. "We carry wounds," Evelyn whispered, "but it is our choice whether they bind us or set us free." Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, as if urging them to finally embrace what had been too long denied. The first step toward healing, fragile but real, was taken in that silent room. The room fell into a fragile silence as Harold's youngest son, David, spoke at last. His voice was hesitant but resolute, carrying the weight of years spent in shadows. "I never wanted to be the black sheep," he admitted, eyes fixed on the floor. "But I was the one who left without saying goodbye." His confession hung heavy, a raw wound reopened. "I thought if I walked away, I could heal away the pain." The years of absence had built walls between him and his family, walls thicker than he ever imagined. Evelyn's gaze softened but did not waver. "Sometimes the hardest step is the first one back," she said gently. The air shifted as the possibility of reunion stirred faint hope amidst the ghosts of broken bonds. Thomas, still burdened by his own guilt, turned to David with a mix of anger and longing. "You left when we needed you most," he said quietly, voice trembling with old wounds. "And now you expect us to just forget years of silence?" The tension thickened, the room bristling with unspoken accusations. Yet beneath the sharp words, a fragile thread of love remained. "I never stopped hoping," David replied, voice breaking, "that you'd want me back." Evelyn watched them both with weary eyes, knowing that healing required not just words but time, forgiveness, and courage. The past lay between them like a chasm, but for the first time, a bridge was being tentatively built. Marie broke the mounting tension with a voice that was soft but unwavering. "We've been blaming each other for too long," she said, glancing at her siblings, "but the real enemy is the silence that grew between us." Her words felt like a balm on raw wounds. "We are all fractured pieces of the same broken whole." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but her stance was steady. "Tonight I want to try to reach across the distance, not with anger, but with hope." Evelyn nodded approvingly, her eyes shining with quiet pride. The night stretched on, the first fragile threads of reconciliation weaving slowly through the room's heavy air. Harold's breathing grew shallow, but his spirit fought on. "I have carried this burden too long," he whispered, voice cracked by age and regret. "The mistakes I made, the love I withheld, they haunt me every day." His children gathered closer, the distance between them shrinking with each fragile breath. Evelyn's voice was steady. "We are not defined by our past alone, but by how we choose to face it." The weight of decades pressed upon them, but also the promise of release. Harold's eyes met each of theirs, silent apologies and love flowing between them in that suspended moment. The night had shifted. What once was cold and broken now flickered with the first fragile warmth of forgiveness. As the clock crept past midnight, Evelyn's voice filled the quiet room with a gentle authority. "Tonight is not an end but a beginning," she said, her frail hand reaching out to rest on Harold's. "We are more than our mistakes and regrets. We are a family still, held together by love that endures beyond the silence." The children nodded, some wiping away tears, others offering tentative smiles. The weight of years felt lighter now, carried not alone but together. Outside, the first hints of dawn brushed the horizon, promising new light after a long dark night. Evelyn's whispered words lingered in the air like a blessing. "To truly let go, we must first embrace the pain, and then choose love." The night deepened as Thomas's voice grew steadier, his confession unfolding like a fragile thread. "I wasn't just angry at you, Dad," he said, eyes locked on Harold's weakened form. "I was angry at myself for failing you all." His words trembled with regret, revealing years of silent self-blame. "Every missed call, every harsh word, I carried them like scars." The room felt heavy with the weight of unspoken pain finally given voice. Evelyn nodded slowly. Pain held inside can be the fiercest prison. The family leaned in closer, their walls beginning to crumble as vulnerability opened doors long sealed. Thomas's voice softened. "Maybe this is the first step toward healing, for all of us." Marie's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she spoke, voice steady but charged with emotion. "I've been holding on to bitterness, thinking it protected me," she admitted, "but it only built walls that pushed us further apart." Her fingers nervously twisted a ring, a small sign of her inner turmoil. "I want to break those walls down, not for forgiveness alone, but for freedom from the past that has haunted us." Evelyn's gaze was soft but firm. "Freedom begins with truth, even when it hurts." The siblings shared a fragile silence, the room charged with the possibility that their wounds might one day heal. David, feeling the growing openness, added quietly, "I left because I was scared of being judged, of never measuring up." His voice cracked as he revealed his deepest fear. "But now, I see that running only deepened the wounds." He looked to Evelyn, searching for a sign of acceptance. She reached out, squeezing his hand with gentle reassurance. "True courage is facing our fears, not fleeing from them." The family's collective breath seemed to slow, as if the storm inside was settling, leaving behind a fragile calm. For the first time in years, the past no longer felt like a prison, but a place to start anew. Harold, gathering what strength he had left, whispered with trembling clarity, "I was a man blinded by pride." His voice was weak but filled with remorse. "Too proud to admit my faults, too afraid to ask for forgiveness." His eyes searched each child's face. "I lost so much because of it." The room was thick with the weight of those words, years of silence, missed chances, broken promises now laid bare. Evelyn's voice rose gently. "Pride can be a cage, but confession is the key." The family sat closer, a newfound unity binding them despite the years of separation. The room's tension began to ebb as Evelyn's voice broke through, steady and full of quiet strength. "Tonight we are breaking a cycle," she declared, "one of silence, shame, and regret." Her gaze swept the family, uniting them in shared purpose. "We will carry our scars, yes, but also the hope that comes with letting go." A soft sigh escaped from the children as tears fell freely now. Tears of release, of pain, of beginnings. The fragile threads of forgiveness were weaving through the night, a tapestry fragile but beautiful. Outside, the first faint light of dawn promised a new day, a chance to rewrite their story with love instead of loss. The room's fragile peace was suddenly pierced when Marie revealed a long-held secret. "There's something I've never told you," she said, voice trembling but resolute. "Before I left home, I discovered I wasn't your only child, Dad." Her siblings gasped softly, eyes wide with shock. "Mother had another son. He was taken away when we were young." The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. Evelyn's frail face paled, a mixture of sorrow and acceptance settling in her eyes. "It was a secret kept to protect, but it's a truth we must now face." The family's world shifted on its axis, the foundation of their shared history, cracking open to reveal buried layers of pain and mystery. Thomas's voice broke the heavy silence, filled with a mix of confusion and hurt. "Why wasn't this ever told to us?" he asked, voice sharp yet vulnerable. "Why did we grow up as strangers to our own family?" Marie's eyes glistened as she explained. "Mother wanted to shield us from the pain, from shame, from a world that wouldn't understand." Evelyn nodded slowly. "Secrets like these are meant to protect, but often cause more wounds." The children exchanged looks, some pained, others searching, trying to grasp the new reality. The revelation was not just a shock, it was a fracture, an unspoken betrayal that demanded reckoning. David's voice cut through the growing turmoil, softer but firm. "We've spent so long blaming each other that we forgot the bigger picture." His eyes searched theirs, pleading for understanding. "Our family was fractured not just by mistakes, but by the secrets we never dared to speak aloud." Evelyn's gaze softened as she added, "Truth is a painful gift, but it sets us free." The siblings, now bound by the weight of shared silence, felt the fragile threads of unity begin to strengthen. The night had become a crucible where their fractured family could begin to forge a new path, one built on honesty, however painful. Harold, gathering what little strength remained, whispered hoarsely, "I never knew about him." His eyes, clouded but sincere, met each child's. "Had I known, I would have fought to bring him home." A tear slipped down his cheek, breaking years of silence in that one fragile moment. Evelyn reached out, squeezing his hand gently. "Some truths come late, but love endures regardless." The family leaned in closer, their differences momentarily set aside. The room pulsed with a new kind of hope, a hope born from acceptance, pain, and the unyielding bonds of blood. The hidden truths had surfaced, and now the true healing could begin. Evelyn's voice softened as she spoke, the words that lingered in the air like a prayer. "Sometimes the greatest betrayals come from silence, but the greatest courage comes from speaking the truth." Her eyes met each of her children's, shining with fierce love. We are flawed, broken, but still worthy of forgiveness, most of all from ourselves. Tears fell freely now, not just for pain but for release. The room was no longer a prison, but a sanctuary, a place where wounds could begin to heal and broken hearts might slowly mend. Tonight, Evelyn whispered, we learn to truly let go. Outside, the first light of dawn crept softly through the window, a symbol of fragile new beginnings. The air was thick with emotion as Evelyn's voice rose quietly but firmly. We stand at the edge of something fragile but real, she said, eyes shining with wisdom earned through decades. Tonight, we confront not only what broke us, but also what can mend us. The family sat closer now, the walls they'd built crumbling under the weight of shared pain and newfound hope. Thomas reached out, brushing a tear from his mother's cheek. I want to believe this can change us, he said softly, voice cracking with vulnerability. Evelyn smiled faintly. Change begins with courage, the courage to face our darkest moments and still choose love. The night carried a sacred stillness, a turning point in their fractured story. Marie's voice broke through the calm with a tremor of emotion. I've carried the weight of anger for so long that I forgot how to hope, she confessed, eyes glistening with tears. But tonight, I feel something I haven't in years, possibility. She looked around at her siblings. Maybe we can be more than broken fragments. Evelyn nodded slowly. Healing is never easy or quick, but it is always possible. The children exchanged glances, a mixture of relief and cautious optimism weaving through their shared silence. The room, once heavy with regret, now shimmered with fragile threads of redemption. David's voice was low but steady as he spoke. I want to rebuild what I abandoned. His eyes met each sibling's in turn. Not just to be forgiven, but to be part of this family again. The weight of his absence lingered in the room, but now it felt less like a wall and more like a bridge under construction. Evelyn's gaze was tender as she reached for his hand. Rebuilding is the work of love and time, she said, and the first step is always the hardest. The family leaned in, a silent promise echoing between them, a promise to try, to heal, and to hold one another in the fragile light of new beginnings. Harold, gathering a last surge of strength, spoke with quiet resolve. I may not have been the father you deserved, but I want to leave you this, the truth, the love I kept hidden, and my hope for your future. His voice was frail, but carried deep meaning. Tears traced down his cheeks as the family surrounded him, their presence a balm to his weary soul. Evelyn smiled softly. In honesty, there is freedom. In love, there is peace. The room, once heavy with silence and pain, now hummed with the delicate music of forgiveness and grace, a song that would linger long after the night passed. As dawn finally broke, Evelyn's voice carried a gentle finality. We cannot undo the past, but we can choose how it shapes our tomorrow. She looked around at her children, their faces weary but softened by the night's revelations. Let go of the bitterness, embrace forgiveness, and walk forward together. The children nodded slowly, a shared understanding blossoming among them. The fragile threads of their family, once frayed and tangled, began to weave a new tapestry, one threaded with love, truth, and hope. Outside, the rising sun painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, a symbol that even the darkest nights give way to light. The fragile peace of dawn gave way to a new day, but Evelyn knew the journey was far from over. Healing is not a straight path, she said quietly, her voice steady despite her frailty. There will be days when the past feels heavy again, when old wounds ache like fresh cuts. Her children listened intently, absorbing the truth in her words. But each step forward is a victory over silence and pain. Thomas nodded, wiping a tear. It's hard to imagine, but maybe we can truly build something better, together. Evelyn smiled softly. It starts with kindness, towards each other, and most importantly, towards ourselves. The room hummed with tentative hope, as if the first fragile shoots of a long-awaited spring had begun to bloom. Marie spoke with newfound clarity. I want to shed the bitterness that's weighed me down for so long. Her voice was firm but tender, eyes shining with quiet determination. It's not just about forgiving others, it's about forgiving myself. Evelyn reached out, placing a reassuring hand over Marie's. Self-forgiveness is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. The siblings exchanged glances, a shared understanding passing between them. The night's revelations were transforming into seeds of resilience. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, the family had begun to reclaim the power of love to heal even the deepest of wounds. David's voice was steady as he spoke. We've carried this family's burdens for too long. It's time to share the load. His gaze swept over his siblings, a quiet plea for unity. It's not about forgetting what happened, but about choosing how we move forward. Evelyn nodded approvingly. Togetherness is the balm that eases the sting of past wounds. The children, once fractured by silence and secrets, now felt the growing strength of connection. The dawn outside seemed to echo their fragile but genuine resolve. Whatever the future held, they would face it as one. Harold's voice was weak, but carried deep sincerity. I may not have been perfect, but my love for you was real. His eyes held a spark of pride amid the frailty. I'm sorry for the pain I caused, and grateful for the chance to say this before I go. Tears glistened in his children's eyes as they gathered close, holding his hands tightly. Evelyn's voice broke through softly. Love remains even when words are too late. The family's hearts, once heavy with regret and silence, now beat in tentative harmony. Though the night had been long and painful, it had also been a journey toward light. As the sun climbed higher, Evelyn whispered one last truth. To truly let go is not to forget, but to carry our pain differently. Her frail hand rested gently on the family's joined hands. It is the courage to face the past and still choose peace. The children nodded slowly, their faces softened by the weight and grace of those words. Outside, birds sang a gentle morning song, and light spilled into the room like a blessing. The night's shadows had lifted, replaced by the quiet strength of forgiveness, the fragile promise of healing, and the unyielding power of love reborn. The final morning wrapped the family in a gentle stillness. Evelyn's voice, though fragile, carried the weight of a lifetime. Some wounds stay quiet until they raise children of their own. Her eyes traced the faces around her, marked by sorrow, hope, and quiet strength. We inherit more than blood. We inherit stories, scars, and the choices that shape us. She paused, then added softly, but within those stories lies the power to heal, to forgive, and to finally let go. The room held its breath, the truth settling like a gentle balm. Time had worn away the sharp edges of pain, leaving behind something tender, resilient, and real. Thomas's voice, steady yet tender, spoke quietly. Sometimes the only way to forgive your father is to become one. The weight of those words hung in the air, a bittersweet truth that resonated deeply. Memories of harsh lessons and missed chances mingled with a fragile hope for redemption. The children shared a glance, each carrying their own burden of love and regret. Evelyn smiled faintly. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. And in that journey, we find ourselves. The morning light grew warmer, casting soft glows on their faces, illuminating the fragile bonds slowly knitting back together. Marie's voice broke the silence with quiet conviction. Letting go isn't forgetting the past, it's choosing peace over pain. Tears glistened in her eyes, but her posture was strong, resolute. We carry our history, but it doesn't have to define us. Evelyn nodded, her eyes bright with approval. And that choice, every day, is the truest act of courage. The family held hands, a circle of love forged through hardship and healing. Outside, the world stirred awake, the promise of new beginnings carried on a soft morning breeze. David's voice was soft but sure. We are more than our mistakes. We are the sum of the love we give and the forgiveness we find. His gaze swept over his family, eyes filled with gratitude and resolve. Tonight, tomorrow, every day, let's choose love. Evelyn's frail smile was radiant with pride. Love is the light that guides us through the darkest nights. The family's faces softened, a collective sigh of relief and hope filling the room. The night's shadows had finally lifted, replaced by a dawn of renewed purpose and connection. As Evelyn's breath slowed, her final words lingered in the stillness. To truly let go is to carry the past with gentle hands and an open heart. Her eyes closed peacefully, a faint smile playing on her lips. The family gathered closer, holding each other tightly, a silent promise passing between them. Outside, the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold. The story they shared, one of pain, betrayal, courage, and forgiveness, had come full circle. And in that circle, they found the strength to begin again.